Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a strange, silent world. A familiar one, but filtered, where the sky above isn't blue, or even gray, but red. Always red. Not the kind of red you see at sunset and whisper about how beautiful it is. This red is constant. Permanent. It's what you wake up to, what you fall asleep under, if you can sleep at all. And in this world, the rules you know start to dissolve. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like and subscribe to the video, but only if you really enjoy what I'm doing here. And let me know where you're watching from, and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's start our journey together tonight. It begins subtly. You wake up one morning, expecting dawn, and the sunlight has a different quality. Not golden. Not pale. But thick and red, like light bleeding through closed eyelids. At first, you think it's smoke. Maybe a nearby fire, or something in the atmosphere. But it doesn't go away. The news says everything's fine. There's no haze. No particles. The sun is shining. It's just red. You walk outside. The trees still rustle. The breeze feels the same. But there's a new tone to everything. It's as if the world's been dipped in warm wine. The grass looks darker, less vibrant. The clouds, still moving, still drifting, cast shadows that look oddly purple. Your skin glows differently. Even your clothes don't look quite the same. And what's strange is how long it takes for your brain to adjust. For a while, you keep expecting the sky to change back. But days pass. Then weeks. And the red never fades. Scientists start talking. Some say it's a shift in solar radiation. Others point to atmospheric changes, something about nitrogen density or high-altitude aerosols. But no one really knows. Because the sun still rises. It still sets. It's just doing it in a different tone. At first, it's beautiful. People post photos. Red dawns over snowy cities. Crimson skylines. Hashtag Scarlet Skies trends. Everyone is fascinated. But then the novelty wears off. And the side effects start creeping in. Shadows grow longer, even at noon. People feel tired more often. No one knows why. Some say it's psychological. Others think red light affects the brain. Malls and offices begin adjusting their indoor lighting to compensate. Blue light lamps sell out. You start to notice things that used to be automatic now feel off. Plants in your windowsill seem to be leaning more than usual. Your dog barks at the window more often. Time feels slower. At night, the stars look brighter. But the sky never truly darkens. There's always a faint red glow, like a memory of daylight that refuses to fade. Sleep becomes harder for some. Easier for others. Dreams get stranger. Over time, it becomes clear, this isn't going away. The world's sky has shifted. Not just in color, but in rhythm. And everyone is trying to catch up. You walk outside again, weeks into the new red regime. The streetlights look weaker. The clouds overhead are tinged with violet. You remember a time when blue felt normal, and suddenly that memory feels distant. Like something from childhood. Something you're not sure ever happened. You hear that birds are migrating at the wrong times. That bees are confused. That certain flowers aren't blooming right. The world is adjusting. Or maybe failing to. And there's this quiet tension. Not panic. Not disaster. Just the feeling that something fundamental has shifted. Like living in a dream you can't wake from. You wonder if you'll ever see a blue sky again. Not because you think it'll return. But because you're starting to forget what it looked like. And as you stand there, beneath the endless red canopy, you feel the weight of something you can't name. Not fear. Not wonder. Just a kind of stillness. As if the world is holding its breath. Waiting for something else to change. It's not long before the world begins to reorganize itself, not out of panic, but out of necessity. The red sky is no longer a passing phase or a beautiful anomaly. It's the new baseline. And that means everything that once depended on the old patterns of light has to be reevaluated. Streetlights that once flickered on automatically at dusk are confused by the red haze. Photocells misread ambient brightness. Some neighborhoods are left in unnecessary darkness. Others remain bathed in artificial glow for hours longer than they should be. City workers are sent out to manually override the systems. Temporary fixes. But everyone understands, a new standard is being born. Solar panel efficiency drops. Manufacturers hadn't built them to favor longer wavelengths like this. Homes that once ran comfortably on renewable power start drawing more from the grid. Electricity usage spikes. Energy authorities scramble. They hold press conferences to reassure the public that this is manageable. But the subtext is obvious, it won't be unless systems are redesigned from the ground up. Farmers are among the first to truly feel the shift. The light is weaker, not in brightness, but in spectrum. Photosynthesis doesn't stop, but it slows. Some crops grow sluggishly. Others fail entirely. Agricultural scientists start testing filters and artificial lighting to compensate. Greenhouses are retrofitted with full-spectrum bulbs. Large-scale farms face bigger challenges. Yields drop. Prices rise. Governments step in, subsidizing new lighting infrastructure. Rural areas struggle. Local economies reel. But the problems aren't only technological. Humans, so finely tuned to the sun, begin to show signs of strain. There's more irritability. More fatigue. Sleep clinics report record numbers of patients complaining about insomnia, oversleeping, vivid dreams, and disorientation upon waking. People say they feel untethered, like they're floating through time without anchor points. The color red, once associated with warmth or passion, becomes oppressive. Offices replace window panes with tinted glass. Schools shorten outdoor breaks. More people choose to stay inside, not from fear, but from discomfort. The light feels wrong on their skin. And there's another unexpected side effect, memory. Under the red sky, recollection seems harder for some. Time loses clarity. People struggle to place events. Conversations blur. Days feel stretched but also collapsed. Temporal anchoring, the ability to recall something in context of where and when, becomes slippery. Psychologists begin publishing studies. One paper suggests that blue light enhances memory formation in subtle ways, while red light, especially when constant, might dull cognitive alertness over time. The science is early, but compelling. Cultural shifts follow. Television studios adjust their lighting techniques. Filmmakers abandon certain filters. Fashion brands release new color palettes that pop against the ever-present crimson backdrop. Paint manufacturers roll out products that reflect or mute the red tones. Interior design moves toward cooler shades, blues, grays, and greens, to counteract the overwhelming warmth outside. There's a quiet war between natural light and artificial balance. Religious institutions see a rise in attendance. Some preach that the red sky is a warning. Others call it a transition. A test. A few fringe groups claim it's a simulation glitch, or the start of planetary evolution. For most, it's simply a mystery. And humans have always found comfort in rituals when answers grow scarce. In cities, outdoor events become more theatrical. Evening concerts incorporate blue lasers and cool-toned lighting as novelty. Artists paint with ultraviolet pigments, eager to create contrast. People begin to treat the red sky not just as a condition, but as a stage to resist or reinterpret. There's beauty in defiance. Children born into this world don't know any different. To them, red is normal. Blue skies are fairy tales. Old cartoons and nature shows become archives of a forgotten color. And in a strange way, this generational gap becomes emotional. Grandparents try to describe what a spring morning used to feel like. What clouds looked like when they floated in a pale sky. They speak of rainbows with full bands of color, not just the dull arcs barely visible now. Some children believe them. Others just nod politely, the way you listen to stories of rotary phones or milk delivery. Scientific exploration continues. Space telescopes are recalibrated. The red sky interferes with some wavelengths, enhancing others. Astronomers argue over new baseline values. Some see this as an opportunity, a new lens through which to study the universe. Others mourn the data they'll never recover. A few begin theorizing that this could be planetary in nature. Perhaps the Earth's atmosphere has reached a saturation point of some compound we don't yet understand. Maybe the sun itself is subtly shifting, or entering a new phase, previously undocumented. Whatever the cause, the consensus is growing, this is not temporary. And yet, life continues. That's the most fascinating part. People adjust. Businesses reopen with red-tuned hours. Vacation spots pivot their marketing, crimson coastline specials. Therapists teach clients to manage mood swings linked to color exposure. Schools include classes on circadian regulation techniques. There are new apps for red sky wellness. Meditation under simulated blue light. Custom alarm clocks that mimic sunrise as it once was. Everywhere, there's adaptation. But also something else, something deeper. An existential hum in the background of daily life. Because even though people move on, even though society reorients itself, there's still a fundamental discomfort with the fact that the sky changed and no one can explain why. It's not just about color. It's about permanence. The idea that something so large, so constant, could shift without consent. That realization sticks. It whispers through dinner conversations, through quiet walks home from work, through moments spent staring out windows. You can't help but wonder, if the sky can change, what else can? If something that anchored time and space for all of human history can vanish or transform, then how stable is anything, really? This doubt doesn't manifest as panic. It's slower. Sleepier. More like a dream that doesn't sit right when you wake up. You go about your day, but part of you keeps checking the sky. Not because you expect it to turn back, but because you're waiting for the next change. And in that waiting, something shifts in you, too. Weeks turn into months, and the red sky becomes a fixture of everyday life. It's woven into everything now, your morning routine, your commutes, the way you think about time. It no longer shocks you, but it never truly fades into the background either. You still notice it. Everyone does. It's like a constant soundtrack playing too low to complain about, but loud enough to change your mood. You wake up each day with a strange sense of displacement. Your body feels rested, yet your brain feels slow. The red light sneaks past your curtains even before your alarm rings. It's not bright, it's dense. Like the color is pressing against the glass, asking to be let in. When you finally rise and walk outside, everything has a flatness to it. The world isn't dark. It isn't dim. It's just red. And in that color, depth disappears. Distance feels closer than it should be. Skyscrapers seem smaller. Mountains seem softer. Shadows have lost their sharpness. By now, people have stopped talking about the sky so much. But they've started talking about what it's doing to them. There's a new kind of anxiety floating around. It's not urgent. It's not loud. It's ambient. Like static in the air. Psychiatrists call it color saturation fatigue. Others call it light poisoning. It's not medical. Not yet. But everyone agrees, things feel heavier. Thoughts feel slower. Joy takes more effort. Your neighbor has started repainting his house. Not because it needed it, but because the old colors don't look right anymore. Reds clash. Blues dull out. Whites seem pink. So now, homes are painted in grays and forest greens. Dark colors that don't argue with the sky. Clothing trends shift again, muted tones, matte fabrics. You see fewer bright accessories, fewer reflective sunglasses. Everyone is adapting to a world where red is always watching. And the dreams, those have gotten stranger, too. too. People report more vivid dreams, more dreams about being underwater or lost in endless deserts. Some say they dream in red now, as if the light outside is leaking into their unconscious. A few even say they can't remember what colors used to feel like. They describe their dreams as dull, like memories you know exist but can't retrieve clearly. Scientists link this to overstimulation of certain cones in the retina. But beyond biology, the effect is more personal, more unnerving. Nature begins to follow suit. Some birds don't migrate at all this year. Others go off course. Animal behavior changes subtly. Some diurnal species seem confused, emerging at the wrong times. Plants continue their slow, awkward growth. Some species adapt, shifting their leaves slightly to maximize absorption. Others just wither. The ecosystem is rewriting itself, but slowly, and not without casualties. The global community responds unevenly. Some countries declare national adaptation programs, introducing blue light subsidies and launching sky monitoring satellites. Others downplay the issue, focusing instead on economic impact. There are debates in parliaments about whether this is an environmental issue, a psychological one, or something entirely new. But no one denies that it's real. In social spaces, it's become taboo to say, "I miss the blue." People think it sounds weak or nostalgic in a way that suggests you're not adjusting well. Instead, there's a silent agreement: move on. Find beauty in the red. Don't ask too many questions. Pretend you don't notice the constant, dull ache of missing something you didn't realize mattered this much. You begin to see people act differently in public spaces. Less eye contact. Shorter conversations. More headphones, more sunglasses, even on overcast days. There's a kind of retreat happening. Not physical, but emotional. Like everyone is drawing in just a little, shrinking their presence in the world. Becoming less vibrant to match the environment. Artists and writers are among the few who lean into the change. You visit a gallery where all the paintings are in red and black. No contrast. Just layers and shapes. The artist calls it truth under saturation. You read novels written entirely in lowercase, set in lands where color is illegal. You hear music composed with no major chords, everything minor, ambient, drifting. It's as if creativity itself is reacting to the sky, choosing to either fight it or dissolve into it. There are rumors online about people who've gone underground. Not metaphorically, but literally. Communities built beneath cities, in subway tunnels and decommissioned bunkers. They've created blue light environments, trying to recreate the old world. Some say they've gone blind to red entirely. Others say it's cultish. No one really knows. But the idea of escaping the sky has a certain appeal. Even if you'd never do it yourself, part of you understands why someone might. Technology evolves to match the shift. Smartphones now come with adaptive filters to neutralize red tones. Cameras adjust color balance in real time. AR glasses allow users to simulate blue skies, just for themselves. You see a man sitting in the park wearing a pair, smiling faintly at a sky only he can see. And for a moment, you envy him. Education systems respond, too. Children are taught color theory in reverse. Red is the baseline now. Blue is the exception. Textbooks update illustrations. Biology diagrams show skin under red light. Astronomy units discuss stars through crimson filters. It's not wrong, it's just adapted. But you wonder what it feels like to grow up never having seen a real sunset. Only red. And yet, despite all of this, daily life continues. People fall in love. Get jobs. Move houses. They complain about traffic and taxes and coffee prices. Because humans are infinitely adaptable, and because there's no other choice. You live in a red world now. And it lives in you. One evening, you walk through a neighborhood that feels frozen in time. The buildings are faded. The trees are still. The only sound is the soft buzz of a street lamp flickering in the haze. You stop and look up. The sky is exactly as it's been for months. But tonight, it feels heavier. Not darker. Just denser. And in that moment, something clicks, not a realization, not a panic, just a quiet understanding. This is permanent. Not because someone said so. Not because scientists proved it. But because your mind has stopped waiting for it to change back. And that, in its own quiet way, feels like a kind of ending. You wouldn't think a simple color shift could alter the structure of societies, but you start seeing the signs everywhere. Architects begin to reconsider how buildings reflect light. Glass towers, once admired for how they caught the blue sky, now seem harsh and sterile under red. Their reflections feel off, almost aggressive. New buildings are built lower, wider, with surfaces that absorb rather than bounce. Matte finishes become standard. Dark stone, deep woods, concrete with muted polish. A kind of grounded aesthetic takes over. Billboards change. Advertising agencies experiment with color psychology all over again. The tricks that worked for decades, bright blues to signify trust, vivid greens for freshness, are all recalibrated. Under a red sky, blues become murky and sad. Greens lose vitality. Yellow becomes jarring. Only bold blacks and deep purples seem to hold their own. Brands rebrand. Logos are redesigned. Companies with the word sky in their name quietly drop it. Transportation adapts, too. Car designs shift towards subtler curves and shadowed accents. Headlights are recalibrated, because visibility under red light plays differently with reflections. The Department of Transportation studies new types of road paint that stand out better in the new ambient glow. Drivers report more fatigue during commutes. Fewer people drive at night now, not because it's unsafe, but because the world outside their windshields feels emotionally heavier. Like every journey takes place inside a dusk that never lifts. In the midst of all this, people start craving small pieces of blue wherever they can find them. There's a black market for old screens that haven't updated to the new red-optimized filters. Some people hoard LED bulbs with higher blue spectra. Others collect vintage posters, magazines, or even cereal boxes that still showcase the world in full spectrum. Online, users form communities that share blue memories, photos, videos, old weather footage. They aren't trying to resist the red sky. They're just trying to remember what used to be. Scientists, meanwhile, are under pressure. Every week, they're asked the same questions. What caused this? Is it reversible? Are we in danger? But answers remain scarce. Theories abound. Some say atmospheric dust, others suspect a shift in solar output, or a fundamental change in how light refracts through our atmosphere. But there's no consensus. What's agreed on is that this isn't a surface phenomenon. It's not pollution or a passing event. It's systemic. Global. Stable. The mystery unsettles people in quiet ways. You begin to see more documentaries about ancient civilizations that disappeared. Atlantis, the Indus Valley, the Mayans. Not because they relate directly to the sky, but because people are hungry for parallels. For reassurance that massive, unexplained changes have happened before. That humanity has endured. It's like we're retroactively writing ourselves into a bigger story, trying to find a chapter heading that makes our current moment feel less unprecedented. Religions splinter. Some faiths see the red sky as a divine sign, a reckoning, or a new era. Others lose members, believers who feel abandoned or disoriented by a world that no longer matches their sacred texts. New belief systems emerge, many centered not around gods, but cycles. The idea that the world has turned red before, and might turn blue again, becomes its own kind of comfort. Even without evidence, it gives people a framework. A story to hold on to. Art takes on a new urgency. Street murals bloom with cool tones, sapphire oceans, icy skies, Arctic tundras. Not because artists want to defy the red, but because viewers need the reminder. You walk past one on your way to work, a huge wall painting of a blue whale swimming beneath a sky so pale it feels translucent. People stop and stare at it, as if absorbing color through their eyes alone could restore something inside them. Children growing up in this world don't mourn what they never knew. But you start noticing how they draw. Skies are always red. Clouds, if they're included, are dark gray or white. Sunsets are irrelevant because the sky never really shifts anymore, it's just red, then darker red. Storybooks start to reflect this. Fewer tales about sunny fields or clear skies. More emphasis on what's close, grounded, inside. The sky becomes less of a backdrop and more of a border, something to acknowledge but not engage with. You visit your parents. They talk about how quiet the birds are now. You hadn't noticed, but once they mention it, it's impossible to ignore. There's less chirping in the morning. Fewer flocks overhead. Ornithologists confirm it, migration patterns have shifted. Nesting behaviors have changed. No one knows if it's light-related or something deeper, maybe insects have moved, and with them, the birds. Nature is a web, after all, and the sky is its most visible thread. At work, productivity software adds a sky fatigue feature, basically a reminder to rest your eyes every 20 minutes and look at a blue-toned screen. It's marketed as ergonomic, but everyone knows it's about morale. Offices redesign break rooms with full-spectrum artificial windows. They call them daylight zones, but they look nothing like the real thing. Still, people sit there, eyes closed, pretending. The most profound shift, though, is psychological. You begin to realize that the red sky has shortened your sense of future. Not because of danger, but because of unfamiliarity. You planned your week, maybe your month, but thinking years ahead feels impossible. What does retirement look like under this light? What kind of childhood will your future kids remember? What will photos from their birthdays look like, filtered through this endless dusk? It's not fear. It's vagueness. Like the horizon has moved closer, and you're no longer sure what lies beyond it. Some people try to lean into that uncertainty. You meet a man who says he's never felt more alive. Everything's a surprise now, he laughs. Every day is the first day of something. He's not wrong, exactly. But you wonder if it's optimism or denial. Others go the opposite way. Minimalist living gains momentum. People shed old possessions, pare down to basics. Not because they expect catastrophe, but because the clutter of the old world feels mismatched now. There's a new aesthetic forming, not red, exactly, but monochrome. As if everyone is trying to reset. To match their environment. To disappear into it. And yet, despite everything, despite the mood shifts, the memory problems, the constant recalibration, you're still here. People are still getting married, starting companies, building things. The world hasn't stopped. It's just changed its lighting. One night, walking home, you look up again. The clouds are faint, smeared across the sky like paint that never dried. The red isn't brighter or darker than usual, but it feels deeper. More permanent. And you don't feel angry about it anymore. Just tired. Tired of wondering. Tired of adapting. Tired of waiting for it to change. But as you round the corner and see your street, lit with warm yellow bulbs and windows glowing from inside, something softens. Life is still here. The sky may have changed. But for now, people haven't. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. The question no one dares to ask out loud is simple: what if this is permanent? In the early days, the red sky felt like a temporary anomaly. Now, it feels like a feature. And permanence does strange things to people. We're built for change, but only the kind we believe will end eventually. A passing storm. A rough year. But when the change is open-ended, when it redefines your baseline reality, it forces something deeper, acceptance, or resistance. You notice it first in the way conversations shift. People don't say when the sky turns blue again anymore. That phrase disappears, replaced by quieter comments. It used to be so different. Remember how the clouds looked? You hear these things in grocery stores, on buses, at the gym. Spoken softly, as if louder acknowledgement might break something fragile. Some push back. They write essays, give talks, insist we haven't done enough. Maybe there's something we missed, a signal in the data, an experiment not yet tried. They treat the red sky like a puzzle to be solved, and you admire their conviction, even if you don't share it. Others let go entirely. They say the red sky isn't a mystery but a mirror. That it's showing us who we are when certainty is stripped away. You wonder which side you're on. At night, you read old science textbooks. Not out of nostalgia, but as a kind of self-check. You want to remember how we used to describe the world. How the atmosphere scatters light. How particles interact with photons. You remember something about Rayleigh scattering, the reason blue light diffused so well. Now you flip pages and feel like you're reading mythology. You visit a museum. One of those interactive places where kids used to learn about weather patterns and the color spectrum. The exhibits haven't been updated yet. There's a room with a giant screen showing time-lapse videos of sunrises and sunsets from around the globe. Blue skies. Golden hours. Wispy clouds floating in soft white light. You sit there, alone, and feel like a time traveler. Around you, the world compensates. Street lights glow warmer now, leaning into amber and peach tones. Daytime lighting in offices mimics morning light all day long, trying to counteract the psychological weight of permanent dusk. Therapists start offering spectrum therapy, where patients sit under specially calibrated lights while talking about sleep, mood, and memory. You take one of those sessions. Out of curiosity more than desperation. The therapist is kind. She asks how long you felt displaced. The word surprises you. You hadn't thought of it like that. Not depressed. Not anxious. Just, not located. She says that's normal. That identity often links with setting. And that when the setting shifts too far, the self starts to blur. Afterwards, you sit in a cafe with a friend. The two of you talk about nothing for a while, coffee, the price of rent, a weird dream they had. And then your friend says, "You ever notice how we all look paler now?" You hadn't. But now that they've said it, you can't unsee it. Faces seem washed out. Colors don't pop like they used to. Makeup brands release new lines labeled deep light and compensatory tones. People start experimenting again with clothing. Not to express themselves, but to find balance against the background. There's a strange irony to it all, everyone fighting the sky's dominance one outfit at a time. Artists and designers adapt first. Movie directors release films graded entirely in cyan and yellow to cut through the red haze. Theater productions add bold gels to stage lighting. Fashion shows embrace extremes, either full monochrome or wildly saturated bursts. But the mainstream follows. What once was fringe becomes necessity. And still, there are those who reject it. You find yourself on a forum where people try to replicate blue artificially. Screensavers of oceans. Custom LED rigs. Virtual reality headsets with old sky footage looping endlessly. One user posts a 10-hour video of nothing but blue sky with occasional clouds. The comments are full of gratitude. And a surprising amount of crying emojis. But the thing that surprises you most is how quickly new generations normalize it. Kids born after the shift don't ask why the sky is red. They ask why you talk about blue like it's something sacred. For them, this is the baseline. Their drawings reflect it. Their sense of mood. Their rhythm of sleep and energy. They aren't haunted. They're just adapted. You see a teacher leading a class outside for science hour. She holds up a chart of visible wavelengths. The kids nod along. One asks, "What's blue light?" and she smiles and says, "It's what the sky used to scatter more." Simple. Accurate. But strange, like someone describing an extinct animal you never met. You realize then how memory isn't just personal, it's generational. Cultural. And when enough people forget something, it might as well never have happened. You start recording your own memories. Not dramatic stories, just fragments. The feel of lying in the grass on a clear summer day. The sound of a plane carving across blue. The color of pool water. The glow from an aquarium tank. You write them down like recipes, hoping they'll hold the flavor long after the ingredients are gone. At night, you play one of those blue sky videos. Not because you believe it'll bring anything back, but because it helps anchor something inside you. The video glitches once, just for a second, and the screen flashes red. You flinch. You didn't expect that. The red has become normal enough that seeing it unexpectedly causes no shock. But seeing blue, just a glimpse of it, just a flicker, pulls something out of you. Like a nerve firing from a dream you thought you forgot. That's the paradox, isn't it? The longer the red sky stays, the more you adjust. But the more you adjust, the more you forget. And the more you forget, the more the red becomes all there is. One evening, walking home, you see a kid blowing bubbles. The light catches them at a strange angle, and for a moment, just one, they shimmer blue. Just blue. You stop. It's not enough to change anything. It's not a sign, or a prophecy. Just a trick of refraction. But in that moment, you feel something you haven't in months, presence. Not nostalgia. Not grief. Just presence. You keep walking. The sky is still red. But for a few seconds, your pace is lighter. And in this world where the sun no longer rises golden, where the sky no longer opens wide with promise, that brief lightness is enough. At least for now. You start to notice which memories fade first. It's not the vivid ones, not the summer beach trips or childhood birthdays. It's the incidental things, the soft color of early morning shadows, the way a storm cloud used to gray out the blue just before rain, the shimmer on windshield glass when sunlight scattered through tree branches. Those vanish like whispers. You only realize they're gone when something else reminds you, like a phrase you haven't heard in years, or a smell you didn't know you'd missed. In the world beneath a red sky, time becomes fluid. It stretches. Collapses. 1 week folds into the next. You sleep, you wake, but the difference between day and night is never fully clear. Light becomes constant, but not in the way daylight once was. It doesn't energize. It hums. A low-frequency hum that you feel more than see. You begin seeing more people wearing sunglasses at all hours, not for fashion or sensitivity, but for distance. One layer removed from the atmosphere. You try it yourself, and it helps, not with the color, but with the sense of always being exposed. Like the sky is watching you back. And still, the scientists argue. Some say the red shift is a permanent change in solar emissions, maybe a phase we never knew to expect. Others insist it's Earth's atmosphere reacting to some internal imbalance, like a fever symptom. A few point to space weather, cosmic rays, gamma pulses, dust interactions. But most theories die quietly, not from disapproval but from irrelevance. When something becomes ordinary, explanations stop feeling urgent. What emerges in their place are stories. You hear myths forming in real time. People whisper that the sky is red because the earth is angry. That it's mourning. That we've entered a different dimension, and the color is a marker, an interdimensional tag so we don't forget we've crossed over. Others say it's spiritual. That the red light is revealing truths we used to hide from. That under the sky, you can't pretend anymore. You roll your eyes the first few times, but eventually, you stop dismissing it. Not because you believe, but because belief itself starts to feel like currency. Like something people trade for grounding. You visit a small town where they've painted murals of the old sky. The entire side of a building is one massive cloudscape, blues, whites, even that faint turquoise that's sometimes edged around the sun on dry days. Children play under it, and you hear one ask, "Is that space?" You almost answer, but the parent nearby says, "No, honey. That's what the sky used to look like." The child blinks, squints, and walks away. Not impressed. Not curious. Just unmoved. You feel a weight in your chest. There's a term you come across, environmental amnesia. It refers to how each generation adjusts to the world they grow up in, believing it's normal. If the trees thin over decades, if the birds stop singing, if the sky changes, they'll just assume that's the way it's always been. You remember reading about it in a book once. At the time, it felt like a warning. Now it feels like a diagnosis. And still, life continues. Crops adapt, some better than others. Indoor farming booms. Buildings use more artificial daylighting, with blue-enriched LEDs embedded in ceilings. Screen filters are reversed, now designed to add blue back in, not remove it. Skincare routines adjust. Vitamin D supplements spike in demand. Retail shelves shift colors. Entire industries change not because of a catastrophic event, but because of quiet permanence. You attend a wedding. Outdoors, under a red sky. Everyone wears white and gold. The photos look surreal, like they're taken on another planet. But the couple looks happy. They dance. They laugh. Someone even says, "The light is flattering." And it is. The red hides blemishes. Softens lines. Maybe that's the trade-off, less vibrancy, more mystery. As weeks turn into months, you realize what you miss most is contrast. The punch of a storm cloud against bright blue. The clear separation between dusk and day. Now everything blends. The world feels like it's running through a sepia filter you can't switch off. You start keeping a journal again. Not out of habit, but as a survival tactic. Because the days don't stand apart. They need anchors. You write about what you eat. Who you saw. What you felt when you walked by the lake and noticed the water looked maroon. You used to swim there. Now you wonder if it's safe. One evening, your power goes out. Total silence. No hum of the fridge. No buzz of lights. Just your breathing, and the soft glow of red light leaking through the windows. It's enough to see, but not enough to comfort. You sit by the window, staring at the sky. It doesn't look hostile. Just foreign. You try to remember the exact blue of an October morning. You can't. Not fully. You remember photos. You can describe it. But the feeling is gone. The way it made your chest lift. How shadows moved differently across pavement. How sunlight looked when it bounced off water. Gone. That's when you realize something profound. The red sky hasn't just changed how the world looks. It's changed how you remember the world. Because memory is tied to light. To space. To contrast. And now those anchors are adrift. You light a candle. The flame flickers, warm and yellow, and for a brief moment, your room feels like a cabin. Timeless. Safe. The contrast against the red outside is subtle but real. A reminder that not all change is outside of you. You think about something your therapist said weeks ago. You don't need the sky to change back to feel like yourself again. You just need new anchors. You didn't understand it then. But maybe now you do. You blow out the candle. Watch the smoke spiral. Step away from the window. And for the first time in a while, the red outside doesn't feel oppressive. It just feels present. Not an enemy. Not a friend. Just part of the scenery. And maybe that's okay. It's hard to say when the fear disappeared. Not all at once, that's not how these things work. It faded like an aftertaste. A slow erosion. You didn't notice its absence until you caught yourself doing something mundane, folding laundry, stirring soup, replying to emails, and realized you hadn't thought about the sky in hours. And even more surprising, you didn't feel guilty about that. You used to believe that vigilance was a form of care. That forgetting meant giving up. But life under the red sky has taught you a new truth: endurance isn't about clinging. It's about continuing. You start taking walks again. Not the anxious, head-down kind you did in the early weeks. These are slower. Wandering. Purposefully pointless. You pass people doing the same. A teenager with bright green headphones. An older couple sharing a thermos. A delivery driver paused on a bench, just watching the clouds. You give each other the quiet nod strangers share when surviving the same strange world. It's not beautiful, exactly. But it's peaceful. You begin noticing texture again. The bark on trees. The shimmer on metal. The patterns that shadows still make, even in red light. You realize how much your brain had flattened everything, early on. Red sky. Red world. But that was a trick of panic, not reality. The world still has depth. Still changes. Just differently. You stand one day at a crosswalk and the signal blinks green. Against the crimson background, it glows in a new way. Vivid, strange. Kind of beautiful. Not the kind of beauty you'd write poems about. But the kind you'd mention to someone over tea, like, I saw a green light today, and it looked really nice. And that would be enough. At the park, you see kids playing tag, hide and seek. A group tossing a frisbee that gleams silver and blue. None of them talk about the sky. They just play. You remember how, as a child, the world always felt slightly surreal. Maybe they don't see anything out at all. Maybe that's their magic. You sit on a bench, phone in hand, and scroll through old photos. Blue skies, sure. But also things you'd forgotten, how yellow school buses used to glow. How iced tea looked in glass tumblers. The specific way beach towels bleached in sunlight. You smile, not because you miss it, but because it was real. And now, this is too. Not better. Not worse. Just, next. You start sleeping more soundly. Not because anything changed. But because you did. Acceptance has weight, but it also has clarity. You no longer waste your last thoughts of the day wondering if this will pass. You wonder what you'll cook tomorrow. Whether you should text your sister back. Whether you'll finally read that book that's been gathering dust on your shelf. Your dreams begin to shift. They're not red or blue. They're colorless, mostly. Or maybe colorblind. They take place in kitchens and bookstores and endless hallways. Sometimes the sky is visible in them. Sometimes it isn't. But it never frightens you anymore. At a farmer's market, you buy tomatoes. They're still red. But now you realize how many shades that word contains. The fruit is glossy and vibrant, not the same red as the sky, not even close. That matters. You start looking at red in other places, clothing, spices, signage. Each one a separate hue. The sky doesn't own the color. It never did. Someone once told you that the human eye can distinguish over 1,000,000 colors. You believe it more now than ever. On a slow Saturday, you visit an art exhibit themed around post-normal life. The gallery is dim, with spotlights guiding you through installations. One piece is a mirror reflecting filtered light, so when you look in, your face appears surrounded by soft blue. You stare at it longer than intended. But not because it tricks you. Because it reminds you. You aren't trying to go back anymore. You're just visiting. One painting catches your eye, a wide landscape. Not red. Not blue. A twilight gradient. Lavender to gray. And it strikes you, maybe the sky doesn't have to mean anything. Maybe it doesn't have to represent hope or doom or memory or identity. Maybe sometimes, the sky is just the sky. Later that night, you light candles again. Not out of necessity, but choice. You like how the flame flickers, how it gives the room a heartbeat. Outside, the sky glows as usual. Inside, shadows stretch and retreat like waves. You sip something warm and open your journal. You don't write about the sky. You write about how your neighbor trimmed their hedges. How the post office now has a vending machine that sells plants. How someone sang on the subway today, not for money, just because. You write, today was slow, and that felt good. And then, almost as an afterthought, you add, I didn't notice the red for most of it. It's not denial. It's not rebellion. It's just peace. You don't realize how many things relied on the blue sky until the red one starts seeping into old routines. It's not about memory anymore. It's about infrastructure. Sundials? Gone. Not because they're widely used, but because even the quirky ones in public gardens stop making sense. Plants that used to open with daylight behave strangely now. The circadian rhythms in hospitals require artificial regulation. More patients report confusion, especially the elderly. Some sleep for 12 hours straight, others wake up every 90 minutes, certain it's morning. You see a friend who works in aviation. Pilots, she says, are struggling. Not with flying itself, technology handles most of that, but with orientation. So much of human navigation is tied to light gradients. Sunrise on the horizon. The hue shift of dusk. Even military protocols once relied on first light and civil twilight. Now, it's all red, all the time. Every hour looks like a warning. And then there are the birds. Birds who used to migrate using the position of the sun now veer off course, forming strange loops in the sky. One local study installs GPS trackers on gulls. They fly hundreds of kilometers in circles, landing exhausted in cities they never visited before. Ornithologists scramble to interpret the shift, but the birds just keep moving, restless and confused. One afternoon, you visit your parents. Their home hasn't changed, but you swear the walls look pinker, warmer, more saturated. Your mom blames it on her new paint, but you know it's the ambient light, washing over everything, tinting memories in real time. Her photo albums look off too. The older ones are fine, film doesn't lie. But newer digital prints have shifted subtly. Shadows look crimson. Whites carry a blush. It's not corruption. It's exposure. Your dad tells you he's planted lavender. To test if it blooms right, he says. You both laugh. Right doesn't mean anything anymore. On your way home, you notice that most cars have tinted windows now. Some are opaque. You look around and realize everyone is doing what you were, shielding, muting, adapting. A silent agreement: we don't fight the sky. We learn to live beside it. City councils begin changing their lighting standards. Street lamps are rebalanced to emit cooler tones. Billboards and signs switch to high-contrast fonts. Digital clocks add blue backlighting, purely for psychological comfort. You read an article, The Psychology of Sky Color, Why Red Makes Us Feel More Than Blue. The theory is that red light mimics dawn and dusk, transitional times, so we remain in a perpetual state of low-grade alertness. Not panic. Just readiness. That's why people are tired but not sleepy. Why time feels stretched. Why you're always waiting for something to happen, even if it doesn't. You close the article. You already knew that. At night, your dreams begin to shift again. Not away from the sky, but toward it. You find yourself flying often, drifting through vast crimson atmospheres, seeing familiar landscapes from above. But nothing looks threatening. The red has lost its edge. You wake up calm. Your apartment grows quieter. Not because you isolate, but because fewer sounds feel necessary. You play fewer podcasts. Let music drift into silence. The world is loud in color, so you balance it with quiet. It feels fair. One evening, you cook dinner with friends. Someone brings candles, someone else brings a projector with old home videos. You laugh at awkward hairstyles and shaky camera angles. Then someone pauses the video. Everyone stares. There's a beach shot, just sand, water, and sky. A perfect cerulean dome. No one says anything. But everyone watches. One friend finally breaks the silence. I forgot it was that blue. You nod. But in your heart, you're not mourning. You're remembering. There's a difference. Outside, the red sky remains. Still. Unblinking. But it doesn't push anymore. It just is. A backdrop. A filter. A mood. Later, walking home, you pass a mural. Someone painted an entire side of a building to look like it's tearing open. Beneath the red, a triangle of blue peeks through, like a secret window. It's beautiful, sure, but something about it bothers you. Not because it's hopeful, but because it feels like nostalgia pretending to be rebellion. You don't want the sky to change back. You just want to understand it. One night, you sit outside longer than usual. No distractions. Just breath and quiet and the low hum of streetlights. You study the red. Not angrily. Not in awe. Just with attention. You try to count the shades: crimson, rust, magenta, amber. You give up around 20. You feel, in that moment, what the old philosophers might have meant when they spoke of surrender, not as giving up, but as a kind of belonging. And maybe that's what this is now. A world where the sky burns without fire. Where morning never comes, but neither does night. Where you no longer need answers, only steadiness. You close your eyes. The red seeps through your lids. And for the first time in a long while, it feels warm, not loud. You think, maybe the world didn't end. Maybe it just turned a page. There are strange benefits no one anticipated. The solar panels, for instance. People assumed they'd become less efficient. After all, sunlight seemed dimmer, redder, diffused. But engineers start noticing something curious. Some models work even better now. It turns out that longer wavelength light, the kind red skies provide in abundance, can be absorbed more evenly by certain photovoltaic surfaces. The panels heat up less. Energy production stabilizes. Not a revolution, but a revelation. You hear a podcast where a researcher half jokes that the sky might have done us a favor. It's like the world turned down the brightness to save the battery, she says. The host chuckles. You do too. It's not funny exactly. But it is something. Then there's agriculture. At first, crops flounder. Growth cycles slow. Some fields go fallow. But farmers adapt. They always do. Shade-grown produce becomes the norm. Greenhouses shift to smart lighting. And slowly, the red becomes not a barrier, but a variable. Certain fungi thrive in low blue light. Mushrooms boom. A startup develops vertical farms that use filtered sky exposure in ways that actually improve yield. You find red-leafed kale at the market one day. The vendor says, new strain. Likes the color. You buy it without hesitation. Your body, too, adjusts. You no longer squint when you step outside. Your pupils don't flare open in shock. Scientists say human vision is incredibly adaptive. You prove them right daily. Sometimes you wonder, if a child were born tomorrow, would they ever need sunglasses? The fashion world, predictably, evolves. White disappears. It turns pink too easily, reflects oddly under constant red. Instead, deep earth tones, grays, and dark blues become common. People dress like twilight now, muted and layered. You find yourself caring less about brightness, more about comfort, texture, the way fabric moves under shifting shadows. Art changes. Museums update their lighting to preserve color fidelity. Painters abandon certain palettes. Some embrace the change fully. You attend an exhibition titled Under the Red Veil. Every piece seems to shimmer in contradiction, melancholy and defiance woven together. One sculpture, a looping spiral of mirrored glass, catches the ambient light in ways that make it pulse gently, like a heartbeat. You stay longer than intended. Outside the gallery, a street musician plays. Not blues. Not jazz. Something else. Slower. Drifting. You can't name the genre, but it fits. He's wearing tinted glasses. Not to block the red, just to shift it. To give it tone. Color becomes music. Music becomes color. In your journal, you write, I think we stopped waiting. That's what it feels like, now. The waiting is over. Not because anything has changed. But because everyone has. People still complain. Still reminisce. Still post throwback photos of blue skies and clear sunlight. But the posts are different now. Not bitter. Not demanding. Just acknowledgements. This used to be Tuesday. I remember how light used to come in through this window. I think I like that sky, but I don't miss it anymore. There are new rituals. Sunrises are no longer events, just shifts in brightness. But people gather anyway. Some communities host red dawn walks along old riverbanks or hillsides. Everyone shows up, not because anything will happen, but because nothing needs to. You go once. No one talks much. But you all walk slowly together, breathing the air, watching the clouds drift like old thoughts. You meet someone there. Not in a cinematic way. No stumbling into each other or dropped coffee cups. Just a quiet conversation at the edge of the path. You talk about the sky, of course. But not in the way people used to. You don't wonder why it happened. You wonder how long it'll stay. Whether the red will shift again. Whether this is part of some larger cycle. Neither of you has answers. But you agree to meet again next week. That's something. You read that astronauts aboard the ISS report no change. From their orbit, the Earth looks much the same. Cloud cover still moves. Oceans shimmer. Only the atmosphere, from the inside, seems stained. But from above, it's a thin film of rose and fire. You watch a live feed one night. The planet turns, slowly, steadily. You feel comfort in its motion. No blinking. No pause. Just spin. A friend sends you a voice memo. A friend sends you a voice memo. I think I finally get sunsets. It catches you off guard. But she explains, her whole life, sunsets were moments, fleeting and framed. Something you rushed outside to catch. Now, with the sky in permanent twilight, she realizes how much she took that urgency for granted. She doesn't miss it. She just understands it better. You listen to the message twice. It sounds like closure. Schools adapt, too. Children born into the red sky era, yes, they're already calling it that, don't know anything different. Their drawings all include red horizons and orange skies. Teachers notice that when asked to color the sun, kids pick deep gold or amber. You see one sketch taped to a cafe wall, a crayon family under a red swirl, everyone smiling, a dog with sunglasses. It's adorable. It's also a signal. The next generation won't be asking when the sky might change back. They'll ask why it ever wasn't red. You pass a bookstore one day and notice a new section, post-sky fiction. It's niche, but growing. Stories about living in altered light, about memory and color and shifting perception. One novel imagines a world where people communicate only through light filters, flashing red, amber, rose and patterns that replace speech. It sounds absurd. You buy it anyway. At night, your dreams are longer. Not stranger, just deeper. Less fragmented. You sleep more soundly, perhaps because your body no longer tracks the subtle gradients of pre-dawn light. A small benefit, your insomnia, once a familiar guest, seems to have packed its bags and gone elsewhere. And then, there's photography. The world's amateur photographers are divided. Some love the red skies drama. Others hate it. You scroll through social media and find entire feeds dedicated to sky edits, users manually inserting old blue skies into current photos. The results look jarring. A person walking through a red-washed street under a perfect blue dome feels artificial. You pause longer on the unedited ones. They look like honesty. Museums begin displaying pre-read photography in special exhibits. Not for nostalgia, but for comparison. One curator writes, "This is not about longing for what was. It's about understanding what is." You find that statement oddly reassuring. You go hiking one weekend. A high trail, mostly deserted. You bring water, a light snack, and a pair of filtered glasses, not because you need them, but because the contrast is interesting. At the summit, You sit for a long time, letting your eyes drift across the landscape. Red bleeds into rust, rust into brown, brown into the soft black outlines of distant mountains. It's not beautiful in the traditional sense, but it is consistent. And after everything, that counts for something. Back in the city, street artists are painting over old murals. Not out of protest, just to reflect new light. One wall that used to show a blue whale now depicts a red phoenix. Another shows a sleeping giant curled beneath a crimson sky. You stand and watch one artist as he works. His brush moves slowly, patiently, as if the color itself has changed how fast we all expect things to happen. And maybe that's the real transformation. Not the sky. Not the science. But the speed. Everything's slower now. People walk a little less urgently. Trains still run, meetings still start, deadlines still exist. But they all feel slightly out of sync, like they've been asked to move at the pace of dusk. Even digital clocks seem quieter, as if shouting the time no longer matters. You make a list one evening, not of things you've lost, but of things you've noticed. Small changes. Subtle shifts. Things you wouldn't have seen under the old sky. Shadows now stretch in odd directions around noon. Skin tones look warmer in photographs. Streetlights come on a little earlier. Plants curl more deliberately toward indoor bulbs. People talk more about color than weather. You stop checking the clock after waking up. You put the list away, but keep the habit. Each night, a few more observations. Not always profound. Sometimes just things like coffee tastes brighter against red light. But they ground you. Make the days feel different from one another, even when the sky does not. One evening, someone asks you, do you think it'll ever go back to normal? You think for a long time before answering. Then say, this is normal now. We're just still getting used to it. They nod. Not in agreement, necessarily. But in understanding. That's enough. You begin to see the changes in how people talk. Not just about the sky itself, but about the world. Language shifts subtly. Where people once said, it's getting late, they now say, it's getting redder. Expressions rooted in the movement of light take on new meaning. Red morning isn't about weather anymore, it's just morning. Poets, always the first to adapt, stop referencing the blue. Instead, they write about heat without fire, color without direction. One piece you read describes the sky as a wound that never heals, but never hurts. It stays with you for days, not because it's bleak, but because it's honest. Technology adjusts too. Phone cameras get firmware updates. Algorithms learn how to process red correctly, how to balance it without flattening everything into rust or fire. Screen manufacturers begin advertising red tone calibration as a selling point. Your old tablet, once sharp and vibrant, suddenly feels outdated. Not broken. Just misaligned. There's a rise in optical tech, lenses, filters, color-enhancing visors. Some are marketed like fashion, some like tools. A friend buys a pair that let her see the sky as it might have looked before. You try them on once, out of curiosity. It's jarring. Artificial. Like looking through nostalgia-colored glass. You hand them back. Did you like it? She asks. No, you say. I think I prefer knowing what's real. Red doesn't mean emergency anymore. That's one of the weirdest cultural shifts. For decades, crimson lights meant danger, sirens, alerts, warnings. Now, red is the default. Designers scramble to replace emergency red with new colors. You start seeing teal warning signs. Purple fire exits. It's disorienting, but logical. You wonder how many small changes like this ripple outward, unnoticed. Cooking becomes an unexpected challenge. Under constant red, food looks different. Raw meat appears gray. Ripe fruits blur into everything else. Chefs develop color assist tools to gauge doneness or ripeness. A new cuisine trend pops up, blind prep, where cooks rely solely on texture, temperature, and timing. Some say it brings out new creativity. Others call it chaos. You try a dish from one of these new restaurants. It's strange but delicious. The plate looks like shadows and heat and salt. You remember the taste more than the look. That seems appropriate. Red light is harder on some materials. Paint fades differently now. Cars with certain finishes age faster. Billboards need to be replaced more often. The city feels older somehow, even though time passes the same. You start noticing buildings that seem tired. Not broken. Just sun-worn in a way that's no longer charming. And then you see the opposite, new materials, new designs. Glass that shifts hues under red light, creating illusions of blue or green depending on angle. Metal that reflects scarlet as if it's been soaked in wine. An apartment complex near your work installs an entire facade that changes shade throughout the day. People stop to take photos. You do too. It's like watching architecture dream. One scientist proposes a theory: red light slows us down. Not literally, but metaphorically. Physiologically. She gives a talk about light perception, showing how certain wavelengths affect hormones, cognition, even behavior. Her conclusion? We are quieter now because our sky is quieter. You watch the talk twice. It explains something you hadn't been able to articulate: why conversations seem softer, why traffic noise feels muffled, why arguments on the street resolve faster than they used to. Not all the time, but enough to notice. In this red world, silence is deeper. You spend more time outside, oddly enough. Not sunbathing. Just being. Sitting on benches. Standing on rooftops. Lying in grass. The light doesn't sting. It doesn't push you away. It invites stillness. You see others doing the same. People who once rushed from building to building now linger in courtyards, watch clouds roll, breathe slower. One evening, you and a few friends gather on a hill. No reason. Just habit now. You sit on blankets, sip tea, listen to the hum of the city below. The sky glows with its eternal, gentle fury. Someone plays music on a small speaker, old jazz. The horns sound softer under red. Someone else says, "Do you ever miss the stars?" You all look up. They're still there, technically. But visibility is reduced. The brightness of the red washes out all but the strongest constellations. Orion is gone. So is the Milky Way's delicate sprawl. You nod. Yeah, you say. I miss the dark. It's not a complaint. Just a truth. Later, at home, you dim the lights further than usual. You're trying to simulate night, as your parents once knew it. The room turns the color of fading embers. It's peaceful, but it's not the same. You wonder if it ever will be. In the morning, you watch a bird struggle mid-flight. It circles twice before landing on a wire. Dazed, maybe. Or confused. The avian world has suffered more than humans. Migration patterns collapsed. Night hunting birds hunt too early or too late. Some species adapt. Others vanish. It's a silent tragedy, unfolding slowly. You start keeping a list again. This one, private. It's titled "Changes I Didn't Expect." People nap more often. Streetlights have dimmed, but no one notices. You've started calling it the old sky without irony. You can't remember the last time you saw blue shadows. No one says bright idea anymore. Some friends move to higher altitudes, not for air, but for clarity. The list grows daily. Not sad. Not joyful. Just real. You visit a museum's new exhibit, Light, Interrupted. It features art created after the shift. One installation uses thermal cameras to map human movement in red-filtered space. Another filters red light through tanks of colored water, casting haunting patterns on the walls. You walk through slowly, like entering someone else's dream. In the final room, there's a mirrored chamber. No lights. Just the natural red of the world, bouncing endlessly between glass. You stand inside for 10 minutes. Maybe more. It feels like standing inside the sky itself. On the wall, a small plaque reads, "We used to look up for meaning. Now we find it right in front of us." You read it 3 times. Outside, the clouds drift like slow thought memories. Everything is red. Everything is still moving. The months stretch on, and the red sky becomes background. Not forgotten, but familiar. You stop mentioning it in conversations unless someone new visits, which doesn't happen often anymore. Most people stay where they are now. Travel is slower, less frequent. Not because of laws or bans, just because the world feels heavier. You notice it in airports. The ambient lighting is softer than it used to be. There are fewer announcements, and when they do happen, they're spoken in gentler tones. No more boarding alarms, just subtle chimes. You wonder if the constant red made everyone a little more considerate, or if people are just tired. Maybe both. The flight you take is short. A work thing. A check-in. You're not even sure why you said yes. Maybe to remember what the sky looks like from above. But even at cruising altitude, the red glow persists. It's everywhere now. Atmospheric, not just visual. It leaks into everything: tone, rhythm, mood. During the descent, you look out the window. The land below looks like rusted velvet, stitched with roads and rivers like thread. Trees shimmer bronze. Lakes look like oil spills. You don't take a picture. You know how it'll turn out, washed out, flattened, less than what your eyes see. When you land, your ears pop, and you remember something odd: how bright airport terminals used to be. Now they feel like old malls, lit just enough to navigate. You check into your hotel, eat something bland, and fall asleep without turning off the light. You wake up unsure if it's morning or evening. That's become common too. Time stretches like taffy. Back home, you start hearing rumors. Nothing dramatic. Just questions. Has anyone checked the sun lately? Is it redder than before? Why hasn't it changed back? Scientists continue publishing. Most agree it's solar output shifting in a slow, rare phase. Not harmful, just strange. Others suggest cosmic dust, invisible shifts in our heliosphere. A few insist it's the start of something bigger. But even they admit it could take centuries. Most people don't have the energy to panic. You realize there's a kind of surrender happening. Not apathy, exactly. More like absorption. The red is no longer a question, it's a constant. A color woven into every hour, every action. People stop looking up so often. You catch yourself doing it too, walking to the store, eyes on the ground, the red light touching your skin but not your mind. Art begins to reflect this. A new wave of minimalist paintings explodes, just swaths of red in varying textures. Not as protest. As meditation. One gallery features a series called Nothing But Red. You think it's pretentious until you spend 10 minutes in the final room, staring at a single canvas. Then you realize your heart rate has slowed. Your breathing has evened out. You leave lighter. A documentary comes out, The Day Blue Died. It's well made, emotionally manipulative, full of slow pans over beaches, skies, and faces lit by golden hour sun that no longer exists. You cry, just a little. But afterward, you feel irritated. Not because it's wrong. Because it feels like it's asking you to grieve something you've already let go of. Not everyone adapts as smoothly. Some resist. They start underground forums, swap old sky footage, post speculative science theories. They invent fake solutions, mirrors in space, orbiting umbrellas, artificial filters. A few try building color domes in the desert, giant, curved panels that recreate white-blue daylight inside. They fail, mostly. You watch videos of them on loop one night, unsure whether to laugh or mourn. Then comes the big shift. Someone discovers that plants, certain ones, anyway, grow faster under red. Not all. But some. tomatoes, lettuce, certain herbs. It sparks a tiny renaissance in urban agriculture. Rooftop gardens appear again. Not just for aesthetics. For food. Restaurants begin bragging about red-grown ingredients. You try a salad with fire-colored tomatoes and think, maybe this is the taste of adaptation. You find an old picture of yourself at the beach. Blue sky, white clouds, golden sand. You look happy. Not ecstatic, just normal. You stare at it for a long time, wondering if you were different then, or if only the lighting changed. You scan the photo and set it as your lock screen. But within a week, you change it back. Too bright. Too nostalgic. It clashes with the room. One morning, you wake up to a sky that looks slightly different. Not darker. Just rustier. A deeper shade. Richer. You ask around. Others notice it too. But no one panics. There's a collective shrug, an emotional exhale. The shift doesn't frighten anyone. It just reminds them that change is still possible. You write in your notebook. I've stopped hoping for the old sky. I've started looking forward to the next red. Change doesn't need to be loud to be real. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm adapting. That last line feels important. You underline it. You meet a friend for coffee. You sit outside. The sky is red, of course. The buildings are red. Even the foam in your cup seems tinged with it. But her laugh is the same. Her voice is the same. You talk about books, relationships, strange dreams, how time feels soft lately. Before leaving, she asks, "What do you think happens next?" You say, "I think we keep living. I think we find beauty in the new." She smiles, not as a response, but as a choice. You both walk away in opposite directions. The sky stretches above like a velvet drumbeat. Not heavy. Just infinite. And the world continues. You've long stopped tracking the number of red days. Somewhere along the way, it became like counting raindrops or breaths. The color is no longer an interruption, just a setting for your story. Still, there are days when it catches you off guard. A certain angle of the light, or the way it bends through glass, can make the air feel electric again. Brief moments when you remember the shift, not as history, but as sensation. At the library, you notice the children's books have changed. Once illustrated in soft blues and sunny yellows, they're now filled with maroons, crimsons, burnt oranges. Artists have recalibrated their palettes. Stories don't center the sky anymore, it's just the background, default and constant. Instead, they explore what's beneath it. The adventures go inward now. Underground caves, deep oceans, forgotten cities buried in red dust. You borrow one of the books. You don't have kids. You just want to see what stories they're growing up with. On the last page, there's a sentence that sticks: "The sky was always red, but she still found the stars." You smile. You hope it's true. Evenings bring a strange quiet. Cities seem to wind down earlier. Maybe because the constant red tricks your brain into thinking it's always late afternoon. Shops close a bit sooner. Fewer cars on the road after dinner. The world softens its voice. You've grown to like it. There's a gentleness to it, like everyone collectively agreed to stop shouting. One night, during a walk, you pass by an old man sitting on his porch. He nods at you, then gestures toward the sky. "Used to be blue," he says. "Did you know that?" You nod. "I remember." He's quiet for a while, then adds, "Funny how I miss it, even though this feels like it's been forever." You sit with him for a minute. No reason. Just a shared silence. He doesn't say anything else. Neither do you. Later, at home, you open a drawer filled with old photos. You don't look at them. Just knowing they're there is enough. Artifacts from a different light. You leave the drawer open, like a window. Another day, you visit the botanical gardens. The red sky has transformed the plant world in ways no one anticipated. Some species have vanished entirely. Others have mutated, developed strange pigments or new growth patterns. Leaves that once unfurled in green now burst open in burgundy, gold, deep violet. The guide explains that photosynthesis didn't stop, it adapted. Plants found new wavelengths, evolved their chlorophyll. Life bends before it breaks. There's a tree, tucked in a shaded section, that produces petals the color of dried blood. Not beautiful in the traditional sense, but striking. People crowd around it. Some take selfies. Others just stare. You think it's the most honest thing you've seen in months. As you leave, you hear a teenager mutter, "It's like everything's turning into Mars." His friend shrugs. Mars would be cooler than this. You disagree. Quietly. Mars is dead. This isn't. It's just different. You walk past a mural painted across the side of an old bakery. It shows a child floating in the air, arms wide, as if swimming through the red sky. Around them are fragments of old icons, a pale moon, a flock of blue birds, a golden sun. Below, in blocky white letters, it reads, "Still here." You stop. You stare. You nod. You take a picture. Later, you read a news article about scientists using red-filtered telescopes. They've discovered several new exoplanets that had been hidden by old wavelength limitations. Turns out the red spectrum, when properly tuned, reveals structures we never knew to look for. Some of the new planets orbit suns that glow even deeper red than Earth's current sky. One of the astronomers says, "It's ironic. The color that blinded us also showed us more." You write that down in your journal. You think about how many things we miss because we're looking for what used to be, instead of what is. The idea of space travel comes up again in public discourse. A few private companies start hinting at ships that could leave Earth orbit, maybe even reach Mars in a decade or two. Not for colonization, just exploration. A change of view. But the enthusiasm is muted. Most people aren't dreaming of escape anymore. They've rooted here. Adapted. Found meaning in smaller orbits. The sky may have changed, but it didn't erase hope, it just rerouted it. Your neighborhood installs a new kind of street lamp. They emit a faint blue glow, not enough to overpower the sky, but enough to remind you of contrast. Children call them ghost lights. Some find them eerie. You find them comforting. They hum softly at night, like the purring of an old machine. One evening, you stand beneath one and close your eyes. The red glows through your eyelids. The blue softens its edges. You stay like that for a full minute, breathing. Letting memory and reality blur. When you open your eyes, you notice something else, fireflies. You hadn't seen them in years. Maybe they're adapting too. You smile. You walk home. You feel okay. The sky burns above you, but it no longer scorches. It wraps around the earth like a quiet promise that nothing is permanent, not even permanence. That light can change, and life can follow. That red doesn't have to mean warning, it can mean warmth. It can mean dusk. It can mean a beginning you didn't plan for, but learned to love. And still, you look up. And still, it glows. At some point, the red becomes a mirror. Not literal, there's no reflection of your face in the sky, but metaphorical. The color, the mood, the quiet unease that hums beneath it all, it starts to feel like a version of yourself. A version that's older, slower, less eager to chase every flicker of novelty and more content to sit in ambiguity. You realize this standing in front of your bathroom mirror, brushing your teeth. The window beside you glows faintly, even at night. The red leaks in from every direction, never quite dark, never fully light. You turn off the bulb just to compare. The glow is enough to see by. Enough to think in. You spit, rinse, and just stand there, watching your outline blur into the muted room. The red sky has started to affect time, not the clocks, but the way people feel it. It's as though the sky slowed everything down by a quarter turn. Lunch breaks stretch longer. Conversations drag with softer pauses. Nobody's in a rush anymore, and not in the lazy, disinterested way. More like everyone collectively learned how to breathe again. Slowly. Mindfully. There's a growing movement that calls it red time. It's half joke, half philosophy. They write blog posts, hold gatherings in old parks, sip tea in silence under blood-tinted clouds. You attend one out of curiosity. A dozen people sitting on folded blankets, eyes closed, listening to ambient loops of wind and low cello. A man opens with, "There is no urgency, only presence." You almost laugh, but then you don't. After 20 minutes, someone reads a story about how their grandmother used to paint sunsets in watercolors, and how now she just lets the red in through her window, no brush needed. You leave early but think about that for days. A few towns over, a startup launches something called Sky Reversal. It's a dome-shaped headset you wear outside that filters out the red and projects artificial blue onto your eyes. It sells out in 2 weeks. Social media is flooded with people standing under the same red sky, grinning into fake blue. The effect is uncanny, real but not. Like a dream trying to pretend it's awake. You try one at a demo booth. It works. Technically. But everything else looks wrong. Shadows are too sharp. Faces lose their warmth. Even your own hands seem disconnected, like they're acting in someone else's scene. You take it off within minutes and walk away. When you get home, your eyes ache from the contrast. Back at work, productivity is down, but nobody complains. Deadlines stretch, projects slow, meetings become shorter but more sincere. Someone jokes that the sky put everyone on cosmic vacation mode. You don't correct them. They're probably right. Music changes, too. Popular songs now lean into slower tempos, deeper bass, less shimmer. More hum. Even the up-tempo tracks are gentler. One song becomes wildly popular, it's just a 12-minute loop of soft guitar chords and distant thunder. You find yourself listening to it while cleaning, reading, even during video calls. Artists begin exhibiting light fatigue in galleries. One installation features an empty room, lit only by a pulsating red bulb. Visitors sit for hours, reportedly falling into trances, memories surfacing like driftwood. You attend one night, sit on a cold bench, and close your eyes. You remember the scent of sunscreen. Your father's laughter at the beach. A game you lost on a blue sky afternoon. None of it feels sad. Just suspended. In one of the grocery aisles, you overhear a parent explaining the old sky to their child. It was blue. Like the ocean. Like the pool? Yes. But above us. The child blinks. That's weird. You smile as you walk past. That kid will never know anything but red, and they'll be fine. Better than fine. They'll build dreams from it, not in spite of it. There's a new theory making rounds, that the red sky triggered a subtle shift in human sleep cycles. More people report vivid dreams, strange visions, waking up at odd hours without alarms. You felt it too. Lying in bed, halfway between sleep and consciousness, watching the ceiling glow like an ember. Sometimes you drift into dreams where the sky turns green, or black, or bursts with silver stars, and sometimes, where it simply vanishes. In one dream, you're floating over a field of mirrors, all reflecting the same crimson sky, endless and absolute. No horizon, no ground. Just color and silence. You wake up feeling not afraid, but humbled. The way one might feel walking into an ancient cathedral or a forest older than memory. On weekends, you take longer walks. Nature is still here, just painted differently. The lakes look like ink. Trees shimmer in copper tones. Birds seem quieter, or maybe they've adjusted their calls. One day, you find a trail you've never noticed before. You follow it until it opens into a field dotted with abandoned chairs, metal, wood, plastic, arranged in no particular order. No people. No signs. Just chairs under a red sky. You sit. You stay. You feel like you're in a scene written just for you. Later that week, you start writing again. Not emails. Not lists. Stories. Letters. Notes to nobody. You open a file titled Red Light Journals. You don't know what it'll become, and you don't care. The words come slow but steady, like everything else now. In one entry, you write, "Everyone thought the sky changed us. But maybe it just uncovered who we were already becoming." You close the laptop. The room hums with muted color. You stretch. You breathe. You look out the window, where a cat sleeps on a rooftop, glowing faintly in the red. And you think, we're not waiting anymore. We're living. There's a moment, quiet and unremarkable, when you realize you haven't thought about the old sky for an entire week. Not once. It doesn't feel like betrayal. Just transition. Like how you stopped checking your childhood street on Google Maps, or when your favorite cafe closed and you simply stopped walking that route. Life didn't erase it. It just made room for something else. You're at a small community event in a converted warehouse. Outside, the sky leans darker than usual, as though someone dimmed the saturation slightly. Inside, string lights hang between metal beams, glowing faintly amber against the red filtering in through the skylights. A local band plays minimalist synth and gentle percussion. No lyrics. Just mood. You stand near the back, watching the crowd sway like sea grass in slow motion. No one's dancing wildly. It's more like they're attuning to something invisible, syncing up with the pace of the air. It strikes you then, how rare loudness has become. Not just noise, but emotional loudness. People are still people, but they speak softer now. Even anger seems quieter, like shouting doesn't carry the same gravity under a red sky. You overhear snippets of conversations, someone asking about a composting project, another telling a story about their father seeing Halley's Comet. One person murmurs, "Do you think sunsets still count if the whole sky's already red?" Her friend says, "Maybe they're just echoes now." You smile. That's exactly what they are, echoes. Of something we once needed to see as transition, now blurred into the constant. Later, you stop by a gas station for a snack. Inside, the fluorescent lights feel harsh against your eyes, now used to the outdoor dim. The clerk, a kid with a nose ring and sleepy posture, nods at you. His shirt reads, "Remember blue?" "Neither do we." You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. "Got it from a thrift shop." "Fitting," you reply, placing a bottle of water and a chocolate bar on the counter. As you leave, a gust of wind rushes past. Dust curls up along the edge of the road, reddish and soft. Even the air has changed its tone, carrying the scent of warm stone and something faintly metallic. You pause before getting into your car. The clouds above don't move quickly, but they feel alive, breathing, unfolding, watching. You head home through neighborhoods bathed in layered crimson. Most homes have adapted their lighting, soft whites, indirect lamps, warm yellows to counterbalance the ever-present red. The effect is subtle but meaningful. A reminder that even permanence can be gently negotiated. On your porch, you find a small envelope tucked under a potted plant. No name. Just a wax seal in the shape of a crescent moon. Inside is a short note, "Meet us at the water tower. Midnight." You hesitate, then smile. Of course you'll go. At 11:47, you arrive. The water tower looms like a forgotten monument, rusted and streaked with dust. A few figures stand nearby, some sitting on picnic blankets, others leaning on bikes. Someone hands you a lantern. No questions. No greetings. Just inclusion. At midnight, a woman steps forward with a small device. She presses a button, and a low hum begins. A drone lifts into the sky, trailing a long string of mirrors. They catch the ambient red light and scatter it into the surrounding trees and rooftops. Fragments of orange, pink, and silver flicker like static fireworks. The crowd is silent. You all just watch. After a few minutes, the drone descends, mirrors folding like wings. Someone claps once. Others follow, softly. The woman bows slightly and returns to the group. No speech. No fanfare. Just experience, shared. You stay until nearly 2 a.m., listening to stories, watching shadows stretch in strange directions. Someone offers you a slice of cherry pie. You take it, even though you're not hungry. The crust is soft, the filling warm. You sit on the grass, legs crossed, pie in hand, and for the first time in a while, you feel completely, utterly, present. A guy with a notebook approaches. He asks if he can sketch you. You shrug. Sure. He kneels a few feet away and begins, barely looking up. You ask his name. He says, Ravi. You ask why he sketches strangers. He replies, because no one looks the same in red. I like capturing how they become. You let him draw in silence. When he finishes, he tears the page and hands it to you. It's rough but honest, your face tilted slightly upward, eyes not fully open, surrounded by swirls of crimson and ash. You thank him. He just nods and returns to the others. Later, at home, you pin the sketch to your wall. Not in the center. Just to the side of your desk, where it catches the late glow from the window. You stare at it for a while. Then, without really thinking, you write below it, becoming. The next morning, you wake with the thought that the red sky might not be a punishment or a warning. Maybe it's just an invitation, to look differently, to live deliberately, to slow down and notice the space between moments. You water your plants. You play soft music. You open the window and let the filtered light spill across your floor. It's not the color you were born under, but it's the one you live in now. And it's enough. Word count, 1,449. There's a saying that's begun circulating online, you don't remember the red sky. You feel it. It started as a meme, a photo caption under a moody streetlight, but now it's everywhere. People whisper it to themselves in bookstores, write it on fogged glass, stencil it on sidewalks. Maybe it's because the longer the red sky stays, the harder it is to imagine anything else. The novelty has faded, but something deeper has taken its place. You're sitting in your car at a traffic light. No one honks. No one rushes. The intersection holds its breath, painted in dusky hues. A man walks a slow-moving dog. A kid on a scooter hums to himself, trailing a finger along a brick wall. When the light turns green, you don't move right away. Neither does the car behind you. It's not hesitation. It's permission. Permission to exist for a moment longer, untouched by momentum. The news reports have shifted tone. No more constant updates. Just quiet observations. One anchor ends his segment by saying, maybe this is just our new normal, and that's okay. You turn off the TV and sit still. Not anxious. Not distracted. Still. At the university, a professor publishes a paper suggesting that the red spectrum now affects neural rhythms. Not in a harmful way, but in a regulatory one, like gravity for mood. She calls it light-guided latency. Her hypothesis, human brains have unconsciously synced with the sky's tone, allowing for deeper introspection and slower decision-making. Critics call it pseudoscience, but people keep reading. You notice changes in architecture. New buildings use tinted glass that enhances the ambient red instead of blocking it. Cafes turn down their fluorescence. Street lamps are warmer, dimmer, closer to candlelight. Even billboards abandon their once bright blues and greens in favor of softer gradients. Advertising adjusts, too. Instead of bold slogans and flashing lights, there are quiet taglines, feel more, rush less. Stay with the moment. It's okay to linger. You don't even remember what product they're for, but somehow, that seems to be the point. Your neighbor plants red ferns in their yard. You didn't know those were real, but apparently they thrive under constant low-spectrum light. Their edges shimmer slightly at dusk, like velvet underwater. When you compliment them, your neighbor just says, "They look how the air feels." You start noticing how animals react. Birds no longer sing at sunrise, they sing when the sky shifts in shade, which now happens without a sun. Some cats stay out longer, comfortable in the consistent lighting. Dogs sleep deeper. At the zoo, nocturnal animals appear confused at first, but eventually adjust, waking in staggered rhythms that no longer follow human clocks. You spend a full day without speaking to anyone. Not in a lonely way. Just observing. Listening. Noticing how even silence has texture under a red sky. It's not empty. It's thick. Weighted. Meaningful. Around 4 p.m., you visit a library. Inside, the red glow filters through tall windows, giving every book a faded cover. You pick one at random, poetry, of all things, and sit near a window. You don't read right away. You just hold it. Let your fingers rest on the page. Outside, leaves fall slower than you remember. A child near you whispers to their parent, "Does this color ever go away?" The parent replies, "Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But we're here now." That night, you cook dinner slowly. You turn off your overhead light and let the kitchen lamp cast long, soft shadows. The pasta takes longer to boil, or maybe it just feels that way. Time has softened, lost its corners. You eat in silence. Not as absence, but as fullness. Afterward, you walk to your balcony. The horizon has no gradient, just saturation. The entire sky is red, not angry or burning, but steady. Steady in a way you didn't know you needed. A plane passes overhead, barely visible, just the blink of a light against a blood-colored ceiling. You wonder if the pilots ever get tired of flying through endless twilight. Later, you scroll through messages from old friends. Many haven't mentioned the sky at all. Maybe it's too obvious now, like pointing out error. One friend writes, "Everything feels slower, but I'm okay with that." You reply, "Same." You go to bed early, not from fatigue but curiosity. You want to see what dreams might bloom tonight. The sheets are cool. The air is soft. The sky outside your window glows faintly, like it's guarding you from the edges of the universe. As you drift, your last thought is simple: this isn't how the world ends. It's just how it lingers. You wake to the same glow. It's not sunrise, it never is anymore, but there's a subtle difference in how the red seeps through the curtains. A slight desaturation, like the sky is holding back a little, saving its energy. It reminds you of the slow stir of embers in a dying fire, warm, alive, but not burning. The streets are damp from a light rain you didn't hear. Water clings to car roofs, windows, the edges of your mailbox, catching the red light and turning it into liquid garnet. It's beautiful, but not in the way a sunset is. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's quiet beauty, the kind that doesn't ask to be noticed but is always there. On your way to the local grocery store, you spot a handwritten sign on a lamppost. Red Sky Walk, 7 p.m. at the boardwalk. Slow pace, long thoughts. It's unsigned, with no logo or organizer. Just an invitation. At the store, the lights are dimmer than usual, but no one complains. In fact, most people seem to prefer it. A kid pushes a cart with a flickering wheel, and his laughter echoes softly through the aisle. You catch yourself smiling. The cashier greets you in that unspoken way people do now, with a nod, a pause, shared understanding. No rush. No pressure. Back home, you set your groceries down and open the windows. The breeze is thick with petrichor and that faintly metallic scent that's become a marker of red sky days. It doesn't smell like ozone. It smells like copper pennies soaked in rain. You breathe it in deeply. There's a small notebook on your desk. You open it and begin writing, something you haven't done in years. Not because of discipline, or inspiration, or obligation. Just because the world has slowed down enough to let your thoughts catch up. You write. The red sky doesn't change what's important. It just makes the unimportant things harder to pretend about. You underline that sentence. Then close the notebook. By evening, you've forgotten about the walk, until you hear soft footsteps outside your apartment and look down from the balcony. A small group is forming near the boardwalk path, lanterns in hand. Some carry notebooks. Others just walk with their hands behind their backs. You don't hesitate. Throwing on a jacket, you join the group. No one talks at first. It's not a silence born from awkwardness, but from alignment. Everyone understands the assignment: be present, be slow, be human. As you walk, you notice the red hue softening, like watercolor left in the rain. It's not fading. It's blending, with mist, with light, with perception. Your eyes adjust so easily now you forget what blue even looked like. Someone starts humming a low tune. It catches on. Within minutes, a few others add gentle harmony. The sound isn't beautiful in the polished, professional sense. But it's intimate. A shared vibration between strangers who don't need to impress each other. You reach the far end of the boardwalk, where the water looks like ink with a reddish sheen. The group sits. No one leads. No one gestures. Everyone just sits. One woman pulls a deck of cards from her coat, nothing mystical, just cards with questions on them. She hands one to the person beside her, who reads aloud. What do you miss most that you didn't appreciate before? He doesn't answer. He just holds the question like a fragile thing. Someone else whispers, birdsong at 6 a.m. Another says, the color of toothpaste. That gets a laugh. You say nothing. But in your mind, your answer is, deadlines. Not because I liked them, but because they made time feel real. The group sits until the mist thickens and the light starts bouncing oddly across the water, bending at strange angles. The red deepens. Or maybe you do. On the walk back, someone turns to you and says, do you think this is permanent? You shrug. I think we are. Later that night, you draw your curtains open completely. Let the room flood with that deep, warm light. It makes the walls feel closer somehow, more intimate. Like you're sleeping in a lighthouse. Or inside a heartbeat. You sleep deeply, no dreams, no tossing. Just descent. And as the red glow wraps around you, like a weighted blanket pulled across the sky, you wonder, not with fear but with curiosity, if maybe this is what stability feels like. Not the return to something old, but the full embrace of something entirely new. The next morning, the sky hasn't changed. Of course it hasn't. But your perception of it has, again. You've stopped expecting variety, and yet, every day you wake up noticing something different about the same color. Today, it's not crimson or scarlet. It's softer, like wine diluted in water. A kind of pale melancholy, but not in a bad way. Just reflective. Your neighbor, the one with the red ferns, is painting their fence. Not white, or brown, or any of the usual neutrals, no. They've chosen slate black with a glossy finish, something that will reflect the red light and shimmer like oil. You pause and watch, and they give you a half wave before going back to work. You realize that style has changed, not in a dramatic, runway kind of way, but subtly. Muted metallics. Copper jewelry. Soft linens that absorb and release light like a second skin. Fashion influencers now post red spectrum palettes, where they show how various tones shift under the permanent sky. No one wears neon anymore. The color doesn't behave right. Doesn't glow like it used to. Inside your apartment, you scroll through an art feed. You've noticed how many creators have stopped using blue entirely, not out of protest, but because it feels foreign. Painters show dreamscapes in endless reds and burnt oranges. Photographers capture the world in silhouettes. Even digital artists adjust their screen settings to reflect the new environment. A post catches your eye, a photo of a face lit only by the red sky, eyes reflecting the light like mirrors. The caption reads, "We are made of stardust." But now, it's red dust. You keep scrolling. Later, you head to a museum downtown. It's open late, as many places are now, no reason to stick to daytime hours when day and night are shades of the same color. Inside, the walls have been painted a soft, textured gray. The light, purely natural, filtered through wide skylights, bathes the sculptures in a ruddy glow. One exhibit stands out, a series of canvases, each painted entirely red. Different textures, depths, pigments. One looks like sand. Another, like velvet. A third seems to pulse, even though you know it's flat. The sign next to them says, "Color is language. Color is memory. Color is gravity." You sit in front of that third canvas for a long time. You think about how much we used to assign meaning to blue: calm, cool, distant. Red was passion, danger, heat. Now, red is all things. The mundane and the meaningful. The backdrop and the focus. It's redefined the emotional vocabulary of color itself. On the way home, you hear someone playing the violin in an open window. The song isn't familiar. It's slow, deliberate, wavering slightly in rhythm like a pendulum in water. You pause and let the notes carry you forward. Red isn't just light anymore. It's sound. It's pacing. It's the tempo of existence. Your phone buzzes with a notification. A group chat you forgot you were in. Old friends are planning a virtual call, a red reunion, someone calls it. No agenda. Just faces lit by the same sky, from different places. You consider joining, but you hesitate. Not out of shyness, but because you're not sure how to describe your experience. What do you even say when the sky rewrites how you think? Instead, you light a candle. Not out of necessity, but because you want to see how the flame looks against the red. It's more orange now, almost golden. Somehow brighter than it used to be, simply because it contrasts. It makes shadows feel deeper. Makes corners feel like secrets. You write another line in your notebook. Maybe the sky isn't red. Maybe our eyes just learn a new truth. You leave the page open. Before bed, you stand at your window. A car drives by with no headlights on. It doesn't need them. The world is visible, just strange. Like seeing through tinted glass forever. The moon hangs lower than usual tonight, or maybe that's just a trick of perspective. Its glow is dull, not white or silver, more like rusted pearl. You wonder how children growing up under this sky will draw it. Will they use crayons labeled firelight or duskberry? Will they think blue skies were a myth, like unicorns or silent airports? You fall asleep imagining a new box of crayons with no blues at all. Just 20 shades of red. And for some reason, that thought doesn't sadden you. It just makes you curious. You're in a cafe this time. It's quieter than usual, but then again, most places are these days. People speak in softer tones, as if the permanent red outside has tinted not just the light, but the volume of everyday life. No one shouts. No one rushes. The barista hands you your drink with a slow nod, and you sit by the window that glows with the endless hue. Across the street, a traffic light flickers between shades of red and deeper red. It's an issue no one has quite solved yet, distinguishing warning colors in a world where everything already looks like a warning. You wonder how long until new colors are invented just for the sake of clarity. A student beside you taps through slides on a tablet, rehearsing for a presentation, the psychology of constant chromatic exposure in post-atmospheric shift generations. She pauses, then mumbles, "That's too long." Maybe just living in red. Her friend nods. Shorter's better. It's not like people have long attention spans anymore. You smile into your cup. The world's language is changing. Not just in science and culture, but in the way people describe feelings. Once, someone might have said they felt blue. Now, it's fogged, or shadow red. Therapists are adapting too. One recent campaign encouraged people to express their mental state on a red scale: burnout, rusted, fire bright, ember low. This change in emotional vocabulary bleeds into communication. Texts are no longer punctuated with sun or beach emojis. Now, they feature lanterns, moons, flickering fires. Even language, once rooted in light and dark, is recentering around warmth and saturation. You start noticing this in everyday conversation. At work, someone says, "Let's keep it low flame today," instead of "let's not stress." Another says, "She's a sunset person," to describe someone thoughtful but unpredictable. It's not just semantics. It's evolution. You think back to a time when people would say see the world through rose-colored glasses and realize, maybe everyone is now. Permanently. Later, at the library, you find a small, dimly lit exhibit, Color and Communication Through History. There's a timeline showing how societies used color, Roman togas, medieval flags, Victorian mourning black. Toward the end, a curator's note reads, "Color doesn't just decorate language, it is language." You sit there longer than you expect to. The overhead lights shift gently with the setting red outside, and you watch how they blend. You think about ancient cave paintings, how humans have always tried to record the world around them, often with the only pigment they had, earth red. And now, we're back to that. Not because of limitation, but because of immersion. You pass a child in the hallway drawing with a crayon on the wall. The drawing is abstract, some kind of sunburst, but all in red. Her parent starts to scold, but stops when they notice the design. It's surprisingly good. Complex. Emotional. The child looks up and says, "It's the way everything feels," and walks away. Even children get it. Maybe more than adults do. You leave the library feeling oddly grounded. As if you're learning a new dialect without ever realizing it. Back home, you notice your voice assistant now has red light mode options, not for visual purposes, but for tone. Softer replies. Slower pacing. Fewer interruptions. Machines are adjusting to match the emotional rhythm of the world. Screens offer a desaturate filter to relieve eye strain. Car dashboards shift color throughout the day not based on time, but temperature and mood. And in the mirror, your own reflection looks more familiar than ever. Not because it's unchanged, but because you've stopped comparing it to what it was before. You've made peace with the fact that memory and light are both fallible. And that's okay. You journal again. The world didn't end when the sky turned red. It just paused. And we're learning how to speak again, in slower sentences. That night, you send a message to a friend. "Hey, ember bright kind of day. You?" The reply comes almost instantly. "Yeah. Rusty but steady. Let's talk soon." You fall asleep knowing that even if the sun never sets, people still find ways to connect. Not through time. Not through clarity. But through color. There's a new exhibit at the planetarium this week, Tech Under Red Skies. You're not exactly a tech enthusiast, but curiosity gets the better of you. It's not every day you get to explore how technology, something so often associated with white light and clean lines, has adapted to the permanent blush of the world. As you walk through the entrance tunnel, lit with red LEDs that almost blend into the outside sky, you're greeted with a screen looping a familiar message, "Welcome to a world without blue." Let's see how we adapted. The first display is about screens. Tablets, phones, e-readers, devices that once relied on blue light to enhance sharpness and color vibrancy. Now, they operate on completely different principles. OLEDs re-engineered for long-wave saturation. Interfaces designed with fewer high-contrast whites. Fonts tweaked to remain legible in ambient red. You tap through a demo of an old app, restored to its original settings, cool blues, neon greens. It looks alien now, harsh and artificial. For the first time, you feel nostalgic for something that no longer feels comfortable. Moving on, you find a section on solar panels. Surprisingly, these have improved. Engineers learned to optimize for longer wavelengths, adjusting panel materials to absorb red light more efficiently. Turns out, a sign reads, "The red sky may be a less efficient power source, but not useless." We adapted. You sit at a low bench near a display of smart home systems. Voice assistants no longer just respond to commands, they interpret tone, track emotional language, and even dim lights or change room temperatures based on detected mood. A short video shows a child saying, "I'm tired," and the room instantly adjusting, cooler air, softer lighting, lower music. It's not surveillance, it's simulation of empathy. Based on red. Another corridor leads to transportation. Headlights aren't white anymore. Not even yellow. Cars now project layered wavelengths of soft pink and deep crimson, colors that don't blur into the environment but complement it. Roads are embedded with sensors instead of paint, because reflective markings are useless when the sky offers no true contrast. You run your hand along the chassis of a futuristic vehicle, smooth, matte, engineered to blend with the surrounding tones. A docent nearby explains that visual markers have become redundant. Vehicles now use vibration signals and audio cues to warn pedestrians. Red light has forced a return to multisensory navigation. In another corner, you find a surprisingly emotional exhibit, digital memories before the shift. A row of smartphones and cameras from the era of blue skies. Photo after photo of beaches, skies, oceans, an endless archive of blue. You stare for a long time. It's hard to believe we once saw the world that way. But the images feel distant. Not just historically, but personally. Like a dream you barely remember. The colors seem exaggerated, even fake. The people in the photos are squinting in sunlight you can no longer imagine. You almost want to reach in and pull them into this quieter, calmer light. At the final display, there's a simple prompt. If the world turned red again tomorrow, how would your technology respond? You type a response. It already has. And I think it made us listen better. You leave the planetarium and step into the red evening. It's cooler than usual. A faint breeze brushes past, stirring loose leaves that now fall in every imaginable shade of rust and wine. Your phone buzzes. A reminder to drink water. Even that screen glows gently now, no blue light filter needed. It simply knows. As you walk home, street lights flicker on. They aren't bright. They're designed to imitate firelight, just enough to see by, without overpowering the sky. You notice how much quieter the streets are now. Not deserted, just slowed. Like the entire world took one long breath, and decided not to exhale just yet. Back in your apartment, you sit by your window with the lights off. Your room is lit only by the red dusk that never ends. You don't miss the blue anymore, not really. You've adjusted. We all have. You jot down one more sentence before sleep. We didn't invent technology for this red world, we let it evolve, like us. And outside, the sky watches in silence. You wake up with a strange feeling, not of confusion, but of alignment. The red sky that greets you through the window isn't a surprise anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. You barely register it now, the same way people once stopped noticing blue. What was once jarring is now simply normal. But something nags at you today. A question you've avoided. You've talked about the science, the psychology, the art, the technology. But what about the possibility? Could this really happen? Could the sky actually turn red, and stay that way? You sit down with your tablet and start digging through archives. Not just blogs or speculative articles, but hard science papers. You're not a physicist, but you understand enough. A few possibilities emerge, some rare, some terrifyingly plausible. Volcanic activity, for one. After the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815, skies around the world turned blood red for months. Painters like Turner captured those strange hues in oil and ash. The effect? Particulates high in the atmosphere scattering sunlight in new ways. And that was one volcano. What if there were 10? Or 20? Or something bigger? You stumble across a paper discussing stratospheric aerosol injection, a theoretical geoengineering method to slow climate change. The basic idea? Pump reflective particles into the upper atmosphere to scatter sunlight. It's supposed to cool the planet. But the unintended consequence? A red sky. Permanently. Some models suggest that with just enough sulfate particles, the blue end of the visible spectrum would be drowned out, leaving behind a burnt orange haze across the globe. A modern, man-made sunset, forever. You close the tab and lean back. So it could happen. Not just from nature, but from us. From our efforts to fix one problem by creating another. You find another article, this one more speculative. A shift in solar output. If the sun, for whatever reason, began emitting slightly different spectra, still safe, still stable, but skewed toward red, it could alter how our atmosphere filters light. It would take millennia. But it's possible. Or what if the atmosphere itself changed? What if oxygen levels shifted? Or nitrogen decreased? Even a subtle change in atmospheric composition could reshape the way light is scattered. And if that scattering leaned red, we'd never see blue again. You go for a walk, trying to clear your head. On the way, you pass an old woman sitting on a bench. She's sketching the sky with chalk on the pavement, soft curves of red on deeper red. She catches your eye and smiles. Used to be blue, she says, like it's a joke only old people understand. You smile back, but it sticks with you. By the time you get home, you're thinking about Mars. Not because it's red, though it is, but because of what that redness means. An atmosphere too thin. A sun too distant. A place where red is not just aesthetic but a symptom of emptiness. And Earth? If our sky turned red, would we start to feel more alien to ourselves? Or would we just forget the difference? You open your journal and write a new entry. The question isn't whether the sky could turn red. The question is, would we even stop it if it did? That night, you lie in bed with your curtains open. The red light filters in, soft and steady. The hum of a fan in the corner mimics the sound of wind that, these days, carries dust instead of rain. You remember something a teacher once said, color is a trick of the eye. But it's also a mirror of the soul. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this isn't about science or possibility or fear. Maybe it's about who we become under different light. Maybe that's always been the point. And outside, the sky keeps watching. The sky is quiet now. Not because it's empty, but because it has settled into something constant, unchanging. You sit by the window one last time tonight, watching as the red light seeps into everything, the walls, your fingertips, the edges of your thoughts. It's a color that used to signal warning. Fire. Blood. Urgency. But now, it feels patient. Slow. Like time itself has exhaled. You close your eyes for a moment. You try to remember the blue sky, not just as an image, but as a feeling. And yet, it's slippery now, like trying to remember the smell of a dream or the voice of someone long gone. The red has overwritten everything. And maybe that's okay. The world is still here. It's changed, but so have you. People adapted. Cities softened their edges. Technology stopped trying to blind us and started working with the light. Plants found a way. Sleep came slower, maybe, but deeper. Somewhere along the way, red became home. You breathe in, and even the air feels calmer somehow, like it, too, has made peace with this new normal. Not everything has to be vibrant. Not everything has to shimmer. Some things are meant to glow softly, like embers at the end of a long day. So now, as the world leans into another endless crimson evening, let yourself drift. Let your thoughts scatter like dust in the atmosphere, floating lazily in the warmth of a sky that no longer demands your attention. The red will still be here in the morning. And maybe, just maybe you will too. Sweet dreams, explorer.